Hey, welcome again. This is Mr. Jomar Largo de la Cruz, and we are now in the course 150015. Any questions? That is Unit 6. So I hope that you're going to continue learning until the end. So see you. Yes, hello. This is Unit 6. Any questions? 150015 English representation. My name is Mr. Jamarlar Godila Cruz, and welcome to Unit 6. So let's proceed now to the objectives. For the objectives for vocabulary, we're going to identify how to respond to the questions and understand the context. For language, determine how to use polite questions, anticipate questions, and deal with them. And then next to it is, of course, we will have speaking. Talk about making questions related to direct and indirect questions and anticipating questions. And then listening, understand the four presenters and determine how with O deal interruptions. All right. Okay, let's go now to the reading. Understand the opinions of five people as well. And now let's begin with the week 12. We are now in the week 12. So in week 12, we are going to learn the following. So identify how to respond the question and understand the context. And number two, determine how to use polite expressions, anticipating questions and dealing with interruptions during your presentation. And talk about making questions related to direct and indirect questions and anticipating questions. So that's it for week 12. So bear with me until the end, and we are going to learn from this. Let's go now. Let's proceed to the vocabulary. But before that, let's warm up. Okay. Now you're all excited for the warm up. Let's warm up. So we are going to play bingo game. So this game is you're going only to walk around and ask others the questions in the square. And then if someone answers yes, they write the person's name in the square, and then they're going to complete in a row. Whoever, and then they will let the person sign as well. If they will say they can or they have or whatever the question is, then they're going to sign and write their name. So whoever finish it first will be the winner. All right, let's go. Okay, so you have to give time to the students to do this one so that they can know each other also, and it's an enjoy. It's a very nice game to do as well to make the students enjoy. All right, thank you. Now let's go to the vocabulary. So the vocabulary here will only be about questions. So this is all about questions that you are going to ask to your partner or your group. The Make a note of the answers, please, and then tell the class what you found out. So the first question is, do you prefer questions during or after the presentation, and why? Me personally, actually, I like to ask questions. I like them to ask questions on the topic so I can answer them right away, because maybe they have questions so they can ask right away. It's okay in the presentation, that is normal. Okay, like a training or a seminar, it's okay to do that one. But if it's a sermon or if it is like a how to say that one, like it's a conference about religious conference, I think I noticed that you are not allowed to ask questions during sermon. So not necessarily for that, so it depends. But in educational training and seminars and conferences for education or educational purposes, I think you are allowed to ask. So you can ask for me if I train, if you see me training with you guys, so you can like ask me right away about the topic. Okay. How do you feel about the question period at the end of the presentation? And then how do you prepare for the question period? So this is the question that you can ask with your partner or the group, and then brainstorm, and then you can discuss it in the class as well. Next question, how do you deal with questions you don't want to answer? Okay, because yes, that is true. Because sometimes there are questions that we don't like. I experienced this one before, but you know what? Since you asked him already, you can just um, professionally entertain the question, and then if you don't know how to answer that one, you may ask the audience, another audience, to what's this to ask them what's your idea about the question, or else you can say, um, since you asked that question, would you mind sharing your idea about this question? So it is okay rather than pretending. I think you don't pretend so that you can answer, or maybe you will give wrong answer. What do you do if you can't answer the question? How do you deal with dominant participants? Do you remember a presentation in which questions were handled well badly? What do you think went right or wrong? Okay. These are the possible things that you might experience during the presentation. So it is essential for you and the team, or for the two of you, to discuss first this one, because you might experience this, and there are people like this in the participants. So you have to be in advance, um, be aware. Okay. That's all for the vocabulary questions, and then let's go now for the language. So for the language is, we have like discussion on direct versus polite or less direct questions. So, or polite questions. Okay, there are ways of asking questions in English. So you could ask politely, and you can ask also direct questions. It depends on the situation, or it depends on the people you are talking. So if it's your friend, you can ask direct questions, or if you are in the setup of professional training or conferences, of course you have to be polite in asking. So you have to know how to deal with questions. So direct questions are more concise but maybe sound too blunt or demanding, especially in professional or formal settings. So you have to be polite. So you have to ask polite questions using may or could, or those indicators that would sound, or if possible, something like that. You have to be aware in those kind of question, because that may trigger situations that you don't like. Okay. All right. So let's proceed now. So direct questions. Example for that one. Where is the meeting? What time does the office close? Do you finish the report? Who is responsible for this task? So this is a direct question, but in a polite manner, you can say, "Could you tell me where the meeting is?" So as you notice, there is could. That is an indication, or that causes the question to be not sound demanding. Do you mind if I ask what time the office closes? So, do you mind here? Act as indicator, or act as a phrase that, or act as a phrase or expression that sound polite. So that's why you have to be aware of this kind of situation. So be aware to ask politely, especially you don't know the person. To make questions even more polite, you can use modal verbs. So as you can see a while ago, we are using could, would, and might are really good indicators, or really good items that we can use in asking polite questions. Use indirect speech instead of asking a question directly, because you can ask directly to your friends, but if you don't know, especially the presenter, so you have to be polite. And then add softening phrases. I was wondering, I'd appreciate it if, so like the example a while ago, do you mind? Is it possible? So, do you mind me asking if? So, that is an indicator that it is a softening phrases or a polite phrases to ask. Use direct questions in informal settings among friends, so as what I mentioned a while ago, and then when a quick response is needed. And then also less direct questions or polite questions in professional environments, formal meetings, emails, or when speaking to someone you don't know well. So this is what I'm talking a while ago. Now, answer the following after reading the polite and then direct and then less direct questions. May ask may ask if there are any other options. So this is what you are going to ask. Do you mind telling me what would you mean for us? May ask. So you can add this one. What you would like to ask. Can you tell me? Okay. Would you mind telling me? Could you tell me? So you are going to write anything that you think that you can ask, or that may sound you want to ask, but you want to sound professional. So you can do this one. So 3, 4, 5, and 6, please. Thank you. All right. So much about that one. So let's match this to the answer of the question. So we have here for number one, may ask if there are any options. So A, of course, basically we have two alternatives. Do you mind telling me what would you mean for us? Well, first of all, more work for each of us. May I ask if you have already contacted the London office? Yes, we will. I've already contacted the London office. Can you tell me? Okay, and then so on. So these are the matching of the question and the words. The question and the answer. So let's move on now to speaking. In speaking, I want you to practice using the checklist for questions below. Number one, listen carefully. Make sure you have understood the question correctly. Reformulate the question in your own words. If you want to postpone the question, say why politely. And then if you don't know the answer, say so and other to find out. And then answer irrelevant questions politely but briefly, not so long. Check that questioner is satisfied with your answer. So you have to do this one so that everything will go smoothly. And that's it. So this is the end of week 12, where you learned a while ago the vocabulary questions about during and after presentations on page 50, and language practice for direct questions and less direct questions, anticipating questions, and dealing with interruptions on page 53, 54, and 55, and then speaking where you practice the phrases, because you cannot stop the audience from interrupting when you are having your presentation. So you learned a lot from this week. So thank you. And now let's move on to the week 13. So where you will learn the following. So in this week, you're going to understand the four presenters and determine how to deal with the interruptions. And also you are going to understand the opinions of five people for reading and writing. So you are going to learn the listening and reading and writing here, and then express your ideas after you read. All right. All right, let's go now to listening. Yes, so sometimes you have to deal with interruptions or unexpected questions. So let's listen to the following excerpts from our four different presentations. And we're going to number which is one, two, three, four here. So is letter A number one, or letter number two, or let's see. Let's listen first and then let's continue.
Unit 6, Exercise 7. 1.
So, delivery of the units has been set for the 15th of May. That gives us 3 months to handle the production and packaging. I'd like to turn now to the...
Excuse me, do you really think that's realistic? I mean, 3 months. What about our staff problems?
If I have understood you correctly, Louise, your question is how we can meet the delivery date, as we are slightly understaffed in production at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, let me answer your question right away. First of all...
2.
And talking of mergers, don't forget the successful German hair care company Wella, which was taken over by Procter & Gamble only a few years ago. What we need to discuss is whether it's the right moment for us to consider a merger with Carter Financial Services.
Could you tell us what their turnover was last year?
Sorry, if you don't mind, I'd like to answer your question a bit later, when we discuss the financial side of this merger. OK, I was just moving on to the timing of the merger, and I really...
3.
And this brings me to the most important topic of today's session. Due to our new European harmonisation strategy, our complete sales, after-sales and marketing departments will be relocated to Aberdeen by July next year. Now, I know this may come as a shock to most of you, but I can guarantee that all the staff affected will be fully supported every step of the way.
Excuse me, but may I ask how you propose to support those people who are tied to this location? For example, those of us who care for elderly parents or whose children are in a special needs school, for example.
Yes, that's a very valid question. Let me just repeat it so everybody can hear. You're concerned about staff members who will find it difficult to move away from Bristol due to family commitments. Yes, well, of course, we will not force anyone to move, and our Works Council is working very closely with HR to find the best solutions for everyone. If you look on our intranet...
4.
The main advantages of smart credit cards are...
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but could you explain what smart means in this context?
Yes, sure. It means that the big credit card companies like Visa and MasterCard use special microchips instead of the usual magnetic strips on their cards. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So, let's go back to the main advantages of smart credit cards.
All right. Upon listening, so let's sequence now, or let's sequence now the sentences here, which is number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So letter A is number 2. All right. And then letter B is number 1. Letter C is number 4, and number 3 is letter D. So A postpones answering the questions. So number 1 deals with an aggressive question. Number 2 postpones answering the questions. And number 3 deals with a difficult question. And number 4 explains a term that somebody doesn't understand. Very good. So let's move on now to reading and writing. So that's all for the listening. Let's go now for the reading and writing. So look at what these people say about the question and answer session. So number 1, the person 1 said, "For me, the question and answer session is the most difficult part of a presentation. I don't like it all. You never know what questions will be asked, so you can't really prepare." Okay, she is also right. Next, person 2. "If you ask me, most questions aren't really questions at all. It seems as if a lot of people ask questions not because they want to get an answer, but because they want to show the other participants how clever." This is so true. Yeah, because I am like this too. Even if, like, sometimes I just want to ask questions, but even if I know the question already, I am thinking like, maybe the other participants, they don't know or they want to know about this. So I am like obliged to ask, but actually I know the answer already. But I just want to ask. It's not about like being clever, but it's about like, knowing the presenter that maybe this is also helpful for other people or they're having trouble understanding this one too. So that's why I'm going to ask. Person 3, "I like the way questions are asked by American audiences. My experience is that they usually stop speaking during the presentation before they start asking questions. I think that's a very good thing because the questions show more respect to the presenter and this also helps create a more useful..." Yes, you have to listen to the question. That is so true that when someone is asking, you have to stop the presentation and then listen to the question. That is really important because it's especially coming from the audience. Person 4, "I think it's important to try and predict all the questions you might be asked. Then it's a good idea to think if possible answers and ask other people to ask. Number 5, you need to decide when you want to answer questions. Allowing questions during your talk usually creates a richer and more stimulating atmosphere. So you should choose, but not accommodating a lot of questions. You should choose at least 1 or 2 questions. So that is something like there is a connection between the two. Now, this is your task. Do you usually answer questions during or after your talk? Which do you prefer then? Then what other tips can you think of for preparing for the question period? How often do you present to an English-speaking audience? How different is it from presenting to an audience in your own language? So you have to think of this. Alright, so that is the end of week 13, where you learned the following. So listening to the 4 presenters on page 54 to 90, number 7, and then reading and writing about the opinions of 5 people on page 55. So that's it for this unit. I hope that you learned a lot from this and you can apply this one in your presentation. So thank you so much. Alright, for resources, this is my resources. That's all for the Unit 6. Thank you so much for learning with me. And this is the resources, or this is, because this is only one resources that I am using for this unit. And then this is my contacts. If you want to contact me, thank you so much for giving time learning with me. So, and my email is there. If you have questions, please do. Thank you so much and enjoy learning.